Morning, 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 morning. What time is it? Okay, it's just about 5:30 in the morning. Welcome to BTRJ, being the real me, Janetta. Let me ask. Anyway, if it's your first time tuning into this channel, or if you have stumbled upon this channel, please consider subscribing. Okay, consider subscribing and comment, share. What I talk about may be of an importance to you, or someone else somewhere may learn from it. Right. This month, I'm going to talk about responsibilities as parents. I am the first of 5 daughters. One is late. The first time of me being away from home was when I was about 13 going to 14, I guess. Yes, about that time, when I went off to secondary school in a boarding house, a boarding school. It's the first time. It was the first time, and as a normal parent, my father was a bit worried. He told me every story he could remember from his childhood. I think my mom actually took it a bit more easier, but my dad was the one whom I noticed was a bit anxious, was a bit worried, because first girl going away somewhere. Though it was a good school and everything, there are rules that we had to follow, and everyone was probably catered for. But hey, for the first time, and honestly, for the first few weeks, or should I say the first term, I took it a bit hard. It was a bit hard for me. Just that I didn't voice it out, I didn't complain. It was a bit hard. It wasn't easy the first time. Someone who didn't know how to hold the cutlass to weed and all that, I had to learn. So it was a bit hard for me, but I adjusted. I learned and I grew into it. I'm comparing this to that of my not so little anymore, who is away nearly about 6 hours drive from home in university. Father hasn't been too communicative regarding how, like, going to the school, going to the uni to find out about resources and things that were available for him to use. He wouldn't really get involved. All he wanted to do was to get what he could afford for him to go off to, or he thought he could afford for him to go off to uni. For some reason, I think sometimes I think parenthood needs to be learned. Sometimes I think we need to learn to be parents. You need to learn to talk to your child the right way, especially this day and age that we're living. And if you have to tell them off or punish them for something they've done, there is a more, I don't know if it's because of my background. I was brought up from a different background to his, so there is a way to go about it. and um, for a lesson to be learned. You don't punish because you just want to inflict pain, but a lesson has to be learned from it. That's something that we both disagreed on. But when I said it the very first time it happened, um, it came across to him as if I did not want him to actually punish my son for doing something wrong. However, when it came to the girl, it looks as if he turned blind eye to whatever she did. Somebody would tell me that girls and their fathers have a bond. Myself and my dad, we had a bond, but I was still punished when I went wrong. We had a bond, honestly. Though it might not come across, I may not have spoken about it so much, but we did really have a bond, honestly. There are things he's told me, and I know he hasn't told my other siblings. Um, I wouldn't blame him so much. He didn't live with his parent when he was growing. According to him, he has to go and live with an uncle because, according to the dad, he was being too stubborn for him to handle. Um, so I think that's where that missing connection, that kind of fatherly way of punishing or telling off your child comes from. And you do not punish a child or tell off a child without letting the other parent, especially if it has to do with using the whip, without the other parent not knowing why you actually did it. For instance, I think that's the best way to do it. If you have to punish a child to that extent, then it has to be agreed on, or you have to actually tell the other parent if they are not around. If whenever they came back, you got to discuss it. But he doesn't see that that was necessary, because I think to punish a child with a whip, it's not too much of my style. When they were growing up, when they were like school going age, I would say toddlers, school going age, there was this timeout. I started with this timeout kind of, you know, thing. I think there was one time I came back from work. He was a toddler. He could say a few words. He could pick things for himself from the cupboard if he needed it. I was asleep from a night duty. I woke up and I saw that he had gone for a huge pack of biscuits and was eating. That got me cross, so I had to actually smack him. Honestly, after that, I felt so guilty, and since then, nothing of that incident happened. But I had to apologize to him. I mean, I had to let him know it was wrong. I had to let him know about it, that it wasn't. And since the anytime I had to punish them, if they had to sit in a naughty corner, which was something I did when they were in junior primary, if I had to let them know that I didn't like what they did. So this was the reason why I was doing it. But somebody would say that he wasn't at home most of the time, so how will he do it? My dad wasn't at home most of the time, and I'm sure other parents were not at home most of the time, but they still had a way to communicate with their kids when they did something wrong. My son has been away in uni for nearly 6 months. I mean, it's going to be 6 months by the time he comes home, which is something I'm not too happy about. But I do know their father communicates with them without my knowledge. I am of the view that as these children grow, especially from teenager, young adults that age. They need some sort of support, some sort of guidance. Um, they like to explore. So if you do not put those barriers in place, you may someday regret your actions. Unfortunately, I cannot talk to him. I cannot talk to his father because that communication isn't there anymore. Before I go on, this is the BTRJ, okay, being the real Janet. Honestly, for the past 5 years or a little over 5 years or so, I think I have become a bit more talkative. I'm talking a bit more. Under normal circumstances, I'm that introvert. Probably when challenges do come your way, the best way to sort them out is actually speak about it, and that's something I've been doing. I'm not too happy about it because I really like to keep things in my home private. Things are my personal stuff private. But unfortunately, so many people have come into my life. As you know, I'm a Catholic, but people are like, oh, churches, and my ex-husband is more of the charismatic type. So, any pastor who says something, that's what it is. Pastor. And it gets to a time, it gets to a point. Let me tell you this, sisters, ladies out there, let me tell you, it gets to a time, if you're not very careful, you become vulnerable and you rely on these church leaders, these churches, and that is where you are exploited. So please be careful. I know what I'm talking about. Sometimes they may make you you are made to feel like you have to rely on them for everything. Okay, you have to toe a certain form of lie, and if you do not toe that form of lie, then you are not being Christian enough, and this makes you vulnerable, and you tend to depend on them, and the more you depend on them, that's how they get control of you. So you got to be very careful if you're dealing with them. Honestly, if they have to talk to your children, if they have to do anything, please make sure you are there. Please make sure you are present. Honestly, I've come to not trust many of these pastors, especially these mushroom churches. Be very careful. So I don't know if that's the norm. Can every parent be so happy? I wouldn't say happy. Will you have a peace of mind knowing that your son or your child is away for that length of time? Okay, that far off. A boy, that far off. I'm not happy. I'm not, because I would like they still need guardian. They still need to be told you need to do this personal hygiene. Somebody will say I'm being too much. Yes, I'm being too much. We all have our way of doing things. Someone will be happy to be at home trying to have their meal and sit on the floor to eat. I wouldn't like that. That's it. And though I am speaking this way, there may be some other person who would also like to have their meal at a dinner table with a chef or whoever made the meal standing beside them for them to give the go ahead to leave before they do. So you see, we are all different. We cannot be the same. So I'm talking from my point of view. But what I think the real issue is why my son is away this long is because the father was supposed to be providing an item he needs from home at home and has actually decided not to. So the best way is to stay away. So now my son is going to be home sometime the next few days, in a week or two, he still hasn't provided that item that the child needs. He hasn't done so. He hasn't done so because to him the best way for him to do anything, talk about it. Even when we're having difficulties in the marriage, when I wanted to talk to him, he said no, I should say it in front of the children, so they all hear about it. Probably that was how he was brought up, so that's how he preferred things to be done. I'm not saying I had a better communication with both parents, no, but as we grow we learn. Some people just do not want to learn. You learn and you modify your lifestyle, because what you went through, you do not want your dependents to go through the same thing. So you learn and then correct those mistakes that your mothers or your fathers may have done. But some of us, we just refuse to learn, and when problems start creeping in, we blame the child, and we sort of find a way to blame somebody for the mistakes we as parents have created. So the only reason why I'm talking to you this morning is that well, I had a bit of pillow talk with myself, and I thought I should share this with parents, young parents coming up, parents with teenagers, parents with young adults. Let's assess ourselves, our communication with our kids, our actions with them. I mean, if you were in their shoes, their position, what you are doing or your action, do you think would make you happy if you were them? Okay, I'm not saying we shouldn't punish them. I do. I mean, when you are wrong, I will punish you. I mean, there was a time I had to even talk to a priest about their action. And honestly, if you are that religious and you've got a good leader in your place of worship, sometimes they can be of good help. Yeah, it depends upon who. In this situation, well, I have been with the church for some time, and I know what comes out of it. So I relied on the priest, and honestly, it did magic. Okay, so I'm not saying that every pastor out there is good, but there are scrupulous ones, and their main aim is to get what you have made. So, sisters, if you're listening to me, we do say that the man is the head of the family, but now women are taking those roles. But let's make sure that it does not go into our heads. So try and make sure you have a connection, you have an understanding with your husband or your partner. Honestly, I am divorced, and I'm telling you, I'm happily divorced. I should have done that years ago. As soon as I said I told my mom I was going to divorce, I should have done that. But hey, continue being kind, be happy, and look after yourself. So I come your way again, I say bye bye.